7:51. Next week, we'll watch grown men bash each other's heads in and cause permanent damage to their future self. We call it America's pastime. It's the Super Bowl. Aaron Katursky, ABC News correspondent, has a new survey, a new released data from the NFL on concussions. Good morning, Aaron Katursky.
Oh, good morning. Concussions were down in 2016 compared to the prior year. 244 concussions in 2016, 275 in 2015. Still a little higher than years before that, but at least a downward trend that the NFL can tout heading into Super Bowl weekend. And they were down across the board in preseason, in practice, fewer concussions coming on kickoff returns, and those are the kinds of statistics that the NFL would like to see. The statistics don't tell us whether this results from the increased focus that the league has put on concussions and head trauma, or whether more concussions are simply going undiagnosed.
Right. What's the number? How many concussions did they say happened this year?
244 in 2016 compared to 275 in 2015. So it's an 11% drop, but a drop nonetheless. Still a little bit higher than in 2014 and 2013, but the good news from the league's perspective, according to some league officials who deal in this realm, is that more players are feeling comfortable expressing symptoms, and there no longer seems to be the stigma perhaps that there once was.
Right. Well, it's one thing once you have a concussion to say, I don't feel right, I need to come out of the game, but 11% drop, that's a nice drop. What are they saying? Are they hearing the word about tackling better, staying away from the head? Why are they saying there's an 11% drop?
Well, I think by and large, there has been, and we've talked about this over the years, a focus on staying away from the head and hitting differently and making penalties where there weren't penalties before. But it's also the ability to review how teams handle these things. Just look what happened in the playoffs when Matt Moore, the Miami Dolphins, took that pretty vicious hit from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, Moore comes off the field, goes back into the game. And the NFL this week decided that the Dolphins did not follow concussion protocol in handling Matt Moore's case. And just the ability to do that kind of review didn't exist in years prior, and that may be making some of the difference.
Yeah, also we have to at least mention that the way they practice and the hitting and the tough fall camps, those things are a thing of the past. So
that's right. If
there's less hitting, then there's less concussions.
That's right. And that I think will always be true, and there's been a focus there to not have players so rough and tumble in practice, and so concussions have been dropping, specifically in preseason games and in practice, and so it's mainly on field. So it's still a thing, but it's something the league would like to see continue. And remember, in just a couple of days, retired players are going to be able to start taking advantage of the concussion settlement with the league, and that makes millions of dollars available to them to help defray the cost of their medical bills, depending on the severity of the illness that they suffered related to their time on the field.
We should also note, Aaron, the 244 concussions is one thing, but there are doctors who are saying every time you hit your head against another lineman, even if it's not a concussion, you're doing damage.
No question, and I think that the evidence is there, and I think listen to Ben Roethlisberger and his calculations about whether it's time to hang it up, after a pretty rough career. Retired players said that had they known then what they know now about some of the scientific evidence, they may have made different choices. But football is still an attractive career. It's a short career. And players increasingly, I think, understand that they're going to need to do something after,
right?
And they're going to need to have their head about them to do it.
Aaron Katursky, have a good weekend. Thanks for checking in.
You too, McGraw.
ABC News correspondent Aaron Katursky. It's really, I tell you what, I really have sort of, and I don't know if this is in conjunction with the Rams leaving, and so I've just soured on the NFL, but one of the things I keep in my head is every time I watch a game, I'm watching men destroy their brains. So I don't know where that is in my thought process, but it's definitely in there somewhere.
I know you've been saying that really for like the past year or so.
Last couple of years, yeah. But I mean, when you just listen to these doctors and they're like, look, no amount of hitting your head against somebody else is a good thing.
Yes.
And we should also say that the numbers of kids who are playing Little League football has plummeted. I mean, just plummeted. And so the NFL is petrified that, wait a minute, because it starts off as a pyramid, right? Every kid plays football, and then each year less and less sort of fall by the wayside, and so that's how you get your 6 greatest, quarterbacks of a generation. But if you don't have those Little League games going, and parents are saying, my kid's not playing football.
Yeah.
Then you say soccer, but you're hitting your head with the ball with soccer.
That's a pretty contact sport too.
Right.
Pretty
so
intense.
It's not an easy
Not as
decision.
much as football.
And
obviously.
I know someone's yelling at the radio, "Oh, Millhaven's a pansy. Have your kid play football." Hey, Kurt Warner said his kids wouldn't play football.
Did he really?
Yeah. The coach of the Bears, Mike Ditka, rough, tumble, big, burly, manly man. Mike Ditka said he wouldn't let his kids or grandkids play football.
Their brains are still forming at
Right.
that age.
Right.